and then this goes over to my sub panel, and then eventually over to my other panel with the circuit breakers. So the panels bring that raw DC power into the inverter, converts it over to AC power, and it has AC power going out. So why do we need a battery? Anybody want to throw an answer at me as to why we need a battery? What's that?
Midnight happens.
Midnight happens. Good point. The battery, think of the battery as a buffer. Okay? So first of all, we run out of energy come night. That's one aspect. But then, when I'm running my shop, and I throw on my table saw, I probably should stand behind the green carpet here. I throw on my table saw, and all of a sudden my air compressor kicks on, and Billy's in the other room working with a bandsaw or a grinder. I'm using more power than my system can produce. I'm using more power than I'm coming off the solar panels. So now the batteries kick in, and they give us that extra boost of power that we need momentarily or for a few minutes or even for half an hour. Those batteries now are kicking in. So together with the solar panels and the battery, this thing is still kicking out all the power I need to keep going. And what's really cool is on this new system, you have 3 different little lights on the left-hand side, and they tell you where your power is coming from. So when it's solar, it's the center. What color? I was using black there. Well, we'll use this. When it's solar, we'll use green here. The center one is solar. Oh, that's red. My color's right here. So when it's solar, you got a little center light there. And then when it's battery, you got a little light here that kicks on. And I forget what the top one is. Oh, yeah, the top one is if I got AC coming in, which I don't use. So those 2 lights are kicking on. So at night, the bottom light is on all the time, but the solar is off. But when I'm using too much power for the panels to be producing all my power, then both will kick on. Both will be kicking on. Hand up. Go ahead. Is this simple enough for everybody to understand? Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say that unless you have a more expensive inverter, usually the panels go directly to a charge controller, which was the case with my system that I had.
Okay.
And I think that needs to be noted. Sometimes there's built-in ones, but.
So this has got, mine I have built-in charge controllers. Now a charge controller regulates the voltage going into, the voltage in the amperage. It regulates it going in so that it doesn't, I don't fully understand all the mechanics behind a charge controller. I just know that it is necessary. And we have two of them out there, so you'll be able to see how they work. But you can see the power coming into the charge controller, and then it distributes it to the bus bar out there. But this system is much different than, well, not much different, but a bit different, where we have 2 bus bars out there. The only bus bar we have is here in the battery system. But everything does the same thing. So this is a more modern system. This is a more traditional, older system. Go ahead.
And when your batteries are low and you're not drawing all the power from the panels to produce electricity for the house or for whatever you're using it for, the panels then are charging the batteries so that they're refreshing and getting stronger.
Exactly. That's a good point. So what he's saying is that if I'm not using all the AC going out, if I don't need all this power, then the panels are coming over here and they're charging my batteries through the inverter system. Go ahead, Kelly.
I seem to recall seeing things like panels with built-in inverters.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of that, or did
Yes,
you already
I have.
discuss that this morning?
And I haven't, no, I haven't. I'm trying to keep this really simple,
Okay.
but I will talk a little bit about it. I don't really know a lot about those. And so these type of inverters, they're very, very small and they're fairly inexpensive. They're $200 to $300. And you could actually use that to generate electricity by itself without a battery during the day. At least some of the new ones from Signature Solar. Am I right, Fred? I see you shaking your head. Yeah, the microinverters. Other than that, I really don't know a whole lot about them. Again, my experience has been with this inverter here and my old Ames inverter out there. Remember when I started this thing? I'm not an expert. I don't know it all. And I'm learning. Every day I'm learning from others and from, the system and stuff like that. So I know enough to make a system and make it work and make it safe, but there's so much more to tell you that I do not know.
Yeah, I think what I heard about these microinverters is that if one of your little squares on your PV panel goes down.
Yeah, one of these go down. These
Or-
are all panels.
Yeah, or even a tenth of one of those go down.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the panel still keeps on going.
Fred, correct me if I'm wrong. If part of the panel gets injured or destroyed, or if this hasn't destroyed the whole grid work, you still get some out of this, right?
Yes, you definitely
Okay,
do.
that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
John.
I installed a system from Generac, and that's what they do. They have these little control modules up in the panels, and then when sun hits, let's say one of the panels or a partial panel, it kind of cuts it off.
Yep.
So that it maximizes the capture of the sun's rays to the rest of the panel.
Okay.
And then if one gets injured, it cuts it off as well. But the drawback is that those little intelligent devices also break.
Yep.
So we were down for, I don't know, about a month or two waiting for parts for that little thing to come that one of them had broken. And it also fried something else down below in our inverter. So I'm not going with that system again. That's why I went with the EG4.
Yeah. And again, unless you're really, really savvy when it comes to electrical stuff, the best way to do it is buy good equipment like what Signature sells or another good company that really is going to give you good tech support so that when you got a lot of dumb questions because you don't know, you call them up and they treat you good and they're on the phone and you're not talking to somebody over in Hong Kong or India or wherever, okay? Because Signature Solar, when I talk to those techs, I get that Texas drawl. I can deal with that. These boys are right there at the place and they have access to the corporate EG4 right down the street. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add to what I said, what I learned from that experience was to keep it simple. We're going into a time when you're not going to be able to buy those little parts, and we all know that if one little part is broken, the whole system is down.
Yep.
Right. So keep it as simple as you can. If you have a tracker, even that mechanical tracker may break. So just add a couple more panels to accommodate for that. So just that's the kind of the mindset that we, as knowing what is coming upon the earth as an overwhelming surprise, should be preparing ourselves for.
Exactly. Go ahead. Yes, and that's what the charge controller is supposed to be. This part here where the PV goes in there, that's what the charge controller does. It can shut the charge controller will actually shut down the power coming in from the solar panels. Well, in many ways, that's the system that I now have. So I have those, you were here before, right? So you saw that I had 4 of those. I might break down and buy a 5th one, just so that if one of those go down, then I can do that. But ultimately, what I would like to do, and I've seen this on YouTube, where this guy built this 5K simple inverter just by using chips and some other electronics. It didn't look that complicated, and also a transformer. So I want to look at that technology and study it out more. Again, you know, battery technology, generator technology, all these things. I would like to learn how to do that so that when things kind of went crazy and if some of the equipment fails, I can go back and build my own. And then you can call me up and ask me how to do it.
So far, you have described a completely off-grid system.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about, let's say one of us wanted to incorporate some solar and it might not be enough for us to go completely off-grid, and we would still be required to utilize utility power. Can you describe more about how what that might look like?
Okay, there's 2 ways you can do that. First of all, you can buy what we talked about this morning as a hybrid system. And so the hybrid system now, we will go to, let me see, what color do we want to go to? We'll go to orange here. A hybrid system would come out like this and tie over here to your sub panel. And so, and I don't know this for an exact how this whole thing will work, but from what I understand, it's tied in and it can go back and forth between the electric company and your own solar that you're producing. There's another way of doing it, and we're going to use this color marker. EG4 sells a charger. It's a battery charger. And I probably should have put it over here. Let me move it over here. Now, with this battery charger, you can hook up, thank you, you can hook up a generator. You can tie into the grid. I'm just going to go. You can tie into the grid, and this goes over here to your bus bars on your battery and charges your battery. This is the system I'm going to go with. So they're under $500, and I'm going to be able to tie in my generator to this. I have a 6,500 watt generator, so I'm going to tie my generator into this charger. The reason, and I could actually tie it into this line on my inverter. The problem with this is the information I've found online is that these are very, very fussy at this point here. This is a very fussy thing. If you hit it wrong, something with your voltage, something goes wrong, you can fry your inverter. So you're out $1,000. Or if you're going into the new ones, you're out $1,500, okay? In fact, I can't buy these anymore except for used. So the next safe thing to do is buy this unit, which is designed exactly for charging the battery, and you can run AC power into this from the house. You can run generator. I hope to use this same charger to run the power from my windmill in here somehow. Now, I haven't quite figured that configuration out yet, and that's something that some of you guys are real savvy. We can sit down and kind of hammer that out a little bit, how I'm going to accomplish that once I get a good generator, a good windmill going. But that's the medium that I'm thinking of using. Does that make sense to you, Fred?
Yeah.
You have one of those, right?
No, I've actually been looking at doing something like that, but wind's not something that we want to do in our particular facility.
No, but I'm thinking you have a charger though, right?
Yeah.
Because we were just talking about one.
Yes, in fact, I was going to add to what you just said. So that red line that you have going from, I don't know what the
PV here?
the PV, but the line next to it.
This here,
Yeah, that line right there.
that's, okay, we were talking about hybrid.
Okay.
And so the hybrid would come off I don't exactly know how that would interact, but somehow it would come off. This represents your line from
Okay.
the power company, or
Yep.
this is your panel box. So
Yep.
somehow they would interact together. I'm trying to keep it simple.
Okay, and so that line there, this is because what the problem you run into, especially when it comes to a generator, you got your THD, your total harmonic distortion that's coming into your inverter, and that will, with generators, with the different generators, they have different total harmonic distortions called THD, and you want to, the charger that you drew up there in the corner, well, that will handle that
Yeah.
generator's variance, harmonic variance, a lot better than plugging it into the inverter
inverter,
itself.
yeah.
Because if you plug it into the inverter and this generator is kicking out dirty power,
Yep.
then you have just you're
Fried
building
it.
up the destruction of
Yep.
that inverter itself. And so with the charger that he has up there, whether it be from a generator or, and I saw you had an AC, like on-grid line coming into that. I haven't done the on-grid because we're off-grid, but that looks like it would work pretty well. And I know it works pretty well from a generator because we do have our charger going into there.
And this orange line represents a hybrid system, not the systems that we have, not an off-grid system. Are you with me, Fred?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So but if you don't have a hybrid system, I would not recommend tying directly in, even though you can do it. The literature that I've read from other guys saying this is the way to go if you had a off-grid system, it's better to tie it in with these things, like Fred said, that these are designed for dirty energy that comes off your whatever you're dumping into it.
Well, with my system, Ashley, I didn't want to have a grid tie system. And so, because if the grid goes down, you're down, period.
Yep.
So I have batteries, but also I can switch. I have a switch where I can switch from my system or back to the grid.
Yep.
And so that line that comes in from the grid, that I had to run a long line from my panel into the generator, because I have two panels. One where my solar system operates everything, and then the other panel where I used to have everything, it still operates everything when I switch to the grid.
Right.
So there's a number of different ways you can do this.
Right,
but-
and I haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of how you should connect all this up. Our friend Jason will tell you all the legal legalities and everything. Essentially, what the electric company wants you to do is ideally you have switches that you can only go one way at a time. Is that correct? In your system?
Yes.
Yeah. And they like that. They also let you use what's that called now? Interlocking switch. So an interlocking switch is in your panel here. I guess in your panel here, you've got your master switch. And let's just say, for discussion's sake, that your solar power is coming in on this one right here. And let's just say it's 220, so it's feeding both legs of your bus bar. You have a metal plate that has to be moved in order for this to be turned off or on, and it will interfere with turning this off and on, so that you cannot have both of these on at the same time. You can only have one, and they will approve that. Jason's shaking his head, so I'm a good boy. Yeah. Interlock switch. Exactly. But this is not about, this is basically just how do we get into, bootstrapping solar. Now we're getting into like solar 105 here, where we're learning how to put the system together, okay? And we don't have enough time to teach you how to put a system together. We're giving you the bare bones. We're showing you that there are different types of systems, what to look for, what to buy. If you're going to be serious about it, you need to talk to people that are qualified, like Jason and others who know what they're talking about, or people who have had a lot of experience in putting systems together. And so, but this is not about how to go about doing it all, but we've gone into that just a little bit here. But I want you to really be able to visualize what this looks like. Before, when we broke up there for lunch, Fred and I were talking about it. He thought that we should put this out something like this, and he had a little more complicated drawing, but this is as simple as we possibly can make it for you to understand how the system works. Any questions before we go out here? Go ahead.
I have a question. I don't know if it'd be for you or for somebody in the room that might have some experience with it. I'm in a rural area, but I am in a little town, and we're on the property we have is on the grid. Has anybody experienced any legal issues from basically cutting the cord and going off grid?
So I'm in that situation. I would not cut the cord.
Oh, really?
No, I would not. If you have electricity from the power company, I would not cut the cord.
Gotcha.
Not until we can't buy or sell. Why? Because they're generating power a whole lot cheaper than you can generate it. Okay? You are doing it not because it's really super cost effective. I'm not doing this because I'm going to save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Though I was talking to my cousin a few weeks ago. He was down from Ontario, and he was going to visit his son over in Nova Scotia, and he was telling me that his son is paying $500 a month in electric bill. And I said, I can't believe it. And I said, well, if he's interested in doing a system, I would be happy to work with him and show him where to go and, kind of get him started on how to do it. And I haven't heard back from him. So that would save you some money. My electric bill only got to be, at the worst, maybe $250 a month. And even then, it doesn't justify the money I put into the system. I see hands going.
Yeah, so I just wanted to speak to the economics of it. A lot depends on what you need, what you want. But I've looked into doing some off-grid or some grid connect. And, I'm looking at paying, because I have my house in a tiny home, and there's two families now. Our last bill was really high because it was so hot. When we were running heat pumps and stuff, it was $250. That's the highest it's ever been. But I was able to do the math on what our average bill is and what it would cost. You got the federal tax credit, which some people you don't want to take it or not, but to me, it's money you leave on the table if you don't.
That's right.
So if you include the federal tax credit and you're willing to do some of the basic work yourself, now I'm not talking about off-grid systems here, but if you do a grid connect system, you can find someone you can work with, an electrician or something. I'm looking at, if I do just grid connect with no battery backup, about a 3.5 year payback. Mm-hmm. That's 33% interest on your money. Mm-hmm. And if you do with battery backup, of course, that requires a more expensive inverter and the batteries, but it's more like a 6.5 year payback if you're willing to do the work yourself as much as possible, and then, get an electrician in to do the final connection and stuff. So that just gives you some economics of it.
Yeah. Jason. Now, if somebody would just let me know when we have like an hour left, and then maybe half an hour left, and then 15 minutes, so that I'm not running over. I do want to get out here and talk about what we're doing.
To keep on with my first question, I don't, like you, I don't know the mechanics of it because I've never done it before, but I have heard of a meter that can go on your house,
Yeah.
or either dual meters, so you can have a completely self-sufficient system
Yeah.
with batteries, inverters, panels, everything. Your batteries can remain charged, and the excess power that you might generate through your panels can spin backwards through that meter, So essentially, your meter is spinning backwards, and it goes out onto the grid, and you would receive the benefits of that
Credit.
as a credit in your electric bill.
Right, and that's what a hybrid system is. We talked about that this morning.
Yes.
So it's got both worlds. They're grid tied, and Signature Solar sells them, and there's other companies that sell the grid tied one, the hybrid. And I'm not interested in that, so I've never explored how they work and all the wiring and everything like that. I just know that they're available. But they are more money than what I would pay for one of these off-grid unit. They are more money. So, they don't pay you though. They only give you credit. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So with the Generac system, we did install that grid tie system. We had to get a throwover switch.
Yeah.
It automatically switches. It's a transfer switch.
Yeah.
And it actually physically moves from one side to the other. When the power drops, it goes to the backup power side.
Yeah.
But it cost us money for an electrician to basically install all that because we're not certified electricians, right?
Yeah.
And we had to bring up our power panel on the outside up to the latest standard in order for them to touch it. So that just keep that in mind too. You start touching stuff that's older equipment, you might have to bring it up to code. This is in Tennessee, but it does work. And when we have good sun, we are offsetting. We're not reversing our meter because we consume more than we can. We only have 20 panels on the roof, so we consume more than we can replenish from the solar panels. But it does reduce our bill down,
Yep.
and so we're using a lot of our own solar when the solar is available.
Yep.
So this is our Gospel Ministries building in Tennessee. That's what we did with that one. So that does help, and it did offset our bill.
Yep. So again, if you had a hybrid inverter, you wouldn't have to have that switch and anything like that. So hybrid inverter, the little bit I do know about it, it does this automatically. So if you need more power, it sips it from the electric company. And if you're making way too much power and your batteries are full, it will send it out to the electric company. And it does it automatically in the wonderful world of whatever goes on in that inverter. Yeah, it is. And so you don't even have to, that's more of an older technology that Brantley is talking about there, okay? The new stuff, from everything I've been able to, again, I'm not really up to snuff on it, so, but in a nutshell, it does it all for you without you having to do anything. It just back and forth, back and forth. Just like, you know how I was explaining to you how when I'm drawing too much power in my shop, even on a nice sunny day, this thing kicks back and forth between if it's already bringing in electricity from the solar and it doesn't quit doing that, but it's just pulling now more power from the batteries, and these things communicate with each other. There's just a second. There's communication cables that come down from my first one, my first inverter into my batteries, and it communicates with the batteries all the time. These inverters and these batteries are so smart, they're communicating all the time. Brantley.
Yeah, what I was describing exactly what you're saying. Our inverter is only maybe 2 years old.
Okay.
And so it does do that. It manages
Okay.
all of that.
Yep.
When there's more sun, and it'll use our sun. It'll manage that power process. But we also have that transfer switch where it will transfer because we have a lot of power failures in our neighborhood.
Yep.
I don't know why, but the devil's active there. So we put this in, and that really helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there? Go ahead.
Did you say it matters what you hook up to this? Does it matter? I mean, I would want to use this for my sump pump.
Yeah. Oh no. You can run anything you want on this if you got a big enough system. Okay. So it depends on how many watts. So watts is a measurement of electricity. Watts is volts times amps equals watts. So if you have 120 volts and you have 3 amps, 3 amps, how many watts do we have here? 360 watts. It's that simple math. Okay? So everything you see, you buy a refrigerator, it's rated so many watts. Well, that means that wattage is based on 120 volts. So you divide 120 into your wattage, and you'll notice, oh, that well takes 3 amps. Well, 3 amps is not a lot of power. But when you get into your cook range or your dryer, those are going to draw down 20, 30, 40, 50, like your range, your cook range. Just say you had 2 or 3 stovetop elements going on, and you're baking some bread in the oven. You're going to pull some serious amps. You might be up around 30, 40 amps or that or more. Okay? But if you are running a fan in your bedroom, you might be only pulling not even an amp maybe. Okay, but 120 volts. So the wattage is way, way low. So think of, we went through this last year, but real quick here to understand how power works. If we were to think of electricity to water, okay, so think of amperage as the volume of water you have, and then think of voltage. So you hook up a hose to this with some pressure, and think of the voltage as the amount of pressure of that water coming out of a hose. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? So voltage is pressure, amperage is volume. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there are many different manufacturers out there, and I can tell you from experience, if you do your research, get a good manufacturer that has an excellent service department, because what happens is sometimes I've heard horror stories of people trying to talk to people with Indian accent, and it's very hard to communicate with them, and they're in a different country, different, whatever time zones or whatever, and it's to not being able to get in any service at all.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff you can self-diagnose if you just tell them what the system is reading. So do your research on that. And I've had another comment, but I forgot what it was.
And that's why you keep hearing me say Signature Solar. I wish I could cut a deal with them and maybe get 5%, because I've been telling a lot of people about Signature Solar. They've used me very well. I've been happy with their equipment, and I think they have quality equipment. I've seen good reviews online. I've seen what other guys have to say, and I've done very well. And my brother Fred, wherever he's disappeared to, has done very well with them also.
So they're in Texas?
They're in Texas. And what's nice about it is the company that manufactures the equipment that they sell, EG4 equipment, is right down the street from that retail company. Pardon?
They speak good English.
Yeah, it might have a little bit of a Texas twang to it, but when you call them, you get a live person, and they're very good techs. They might run you through the paces because they want to make sure you haven't done too many dumb things. But they're very good about it. They're very patient with you, and they even when you do dumb things, they don't sit there and give you a hard time. Anyway, there's one last thing I want to say before. This is extremely important, so keep this in mind. If you buy a system and put it together, there's a way you turn the system on and off. Okay? It's not quite like what I've got out there, which is really simple. You just flip a switch and we're good to go. You can't do that with these systems. So let me just walk you through the process. The first thing I do is I walk over to my battery bank and I turn on battery number 1. In fact, Fred brought this over. This is exactly what I have. And so the first thing I would do is, Fred, are you here? No? I'm going to turn this on. And I don't think that will hurt anything. You're going to find that these lights over here come on. See these lights? Now this battery is very low. It's down to 25%. If it were full, it would be all the way over to here. But this has got a cycle. Okay? This has got a cycle. So the first thing you do is you turn on one, and then you turn on another one, and then you turn on another one, and each one of you let it wait for till the first one cycled through all its little lights. and then you keep going until you got all the way down. Once they're all on, then you go over here and you turn on your battery first. Battery first. Then you can come over here and turn on your solar panel. If you do it reverse, you'll burn out your inverter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say another thing I wanted to say was to give you an idea how much power, because sometimes when we talk about watts and it doesn't mean anything. Anyone here that's a fit bicyclist that bikes on a regular day, every day, you consider them a fit bicyclist. Pedaling, if you hooked up a generator to their bike, they could keep a 100-watt light bulb, incandescent light bulb running as long as they kept pedaling. So that gives you an idea when we're talking, your toaster uses 2,000 watts.
Okay, can I interrupt you for a minute here? Because you kind of destroyed my train of thought
go
here.
ahead. No.
Okay? No, it's okay. We can touch that when we're done here because we were on kind of a roll here. Let's go back to what we were doing. So we turn on the battery, we turn on the solar system, and at that point I come over here and I actually turn on the inverter. Now, even though this has a control panel here, even though as soon as I turn on this, it looks like the machine is running, but it's not. Power is coming into it, but it's not really turned on. When I hit the button, that's when this thing really kicks into power. If I do it any different than what I just described, I can damage the unit. And when you turn this unit off, the first thing you turn off is this. Then you hit your start button. You push your start button, and it will pop out. So you're turning it off at the machine. And then you wait for that machine to shut itself off. At that point, you turn your battery off because you've got a switch right here. And once all your inverters are turned off, then you come over here and starting from the bottom, the opposite you turn them on, you start turning them off all the way up. That switch there. That's how you turn these things off. So you got to, when you buy a system, wherever you buy it, whether it's from Signature or anybody else, make sure you know how to turn it on and off. It's not just, you just don't start throwing switches because you burn out equipment very quickly. Now, you can go ahead and finish your train of thought there, okay? Back there.
This may sound like a stupid question, but
No, there's no stupid questions. It's only
What
after
would-
you make
what-
a mistake.
what would be the reason for turning it off? Once you turn it on, aren't you going to leave it on?
No,
Oh, you don't?
no.
Oh, okay.
Well, say you need to do some repair work on your system, right? You don't want a hot system, okay? Or say, like for instance, I could have left them on the whole time I come to camp meeting. My wife begged me to turn the system off. And so I did, because it helps her peace of mind.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be home, your refrigerator is going to kick on throughout the course of the day.
Right, and
So-
we are tied to the grid, so we're using all grid power right now at home. Okay? Again, it's a personal decision, and I've had to turn my system off. Like, I'll give you some for instances, okay? There are times, and I'm not quite done building my system yet. I have a great system, but if I get 3 cloudy days, or even 2 cloudy days, and I've been working in the shop a lot, I've drained those batteries down to 25%. At that point, I shut my system down until the sun can come up, and then I charge my system again. So that's another reason why I would shut it down, at least at this point. That's why I want to get a windmill thing going. That's why I want to get this charger unit so I can charge them up with my generator if I need to. Okay? So there are times when you turn the system off and on, but for the most part, it stays on 24/7. And again, I've taught Karen how to do it. I've given her the instruction if there's an emergency, we'd have to shut things down. I would prefer that that never happened. But in an emergency situation, I would walk her through it. What's that? 1 hour left. Oh, 1 hour. Thank you. Thank you. So can we answer one or two more questions? Come out here and take a look at what we've got. I put a lot of work into that. Go ahead.
During during a lightning storm, if you're off grid, is that something you would shut it down as well, or is it safe to leave it on during a thunder and lightning storm?
Yeah, I might. And I've got to do something that, again, it's a work in process. So I need to do something to take care of that. We haven't had a lot of bad lightning storms lately. Go ahead.
That's why they make lightning arresters. And if you
Right.
don't have a lightning arrestor, you're being foolhardy.
Yeah, and I got to do that. So are we ready to go out, take a look at what I put a lot of time into that. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions out here. What's that? 1 hour. Thank you. I make
Connecting or disconnecting your panels under load. That can be a real eye opener.
ideally when I work with panels, though I did it this time around, I like to do it in the dark. So when they're dead, but